What's shaking, everybody? Welcome to House Divided here on Orange Bloods Live on a Tuesday. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That's Chad Hastings. We're going to be with you. Well, I'm going to let you know we're definitely going to be off within the next 2 hours because at 2 o'clock, Liverpool plays, and I will not be doing this show while Liverpool is playing in the Champions League. But we're not here to talk about that glorious little detail. We're here to talk Texas football recruiting, everything in between. Like, comment, subscribe to the page, jump in to the Specs chat, do that thing that we love you to do. You know, send a super chat for like $500. I promise you, $500, you take over the show.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
You'll do the whole show in Lou Holtz.
Talk whatever you want.
I will be an Australian and we'll get crazy with it for $500. We do want to mention Texas Card House is the title sponsor of House Divided. Bless you, child. We love the Texas Card House because they're such an important sponsor, but we love the Texas Card House because if I want to go play poker anywhere in the state of Texas, they have the best poker houses, including the brand new TCH Social Austin at 183 and Anderson Mill, my old stomping grounds. Go check it out. I'm having lunch there on Wednesday tomorrow while Chad does the show by himself. I got work to do, Chad. I got to make dollar bills, y'all. So, nevertheless, that's how much I love Texas Card House. I had to pick a venue for lunch tomorrow, and I was like, well, they've got a bunch of badass chefs making badass food for people to go have badass food and play poker. It's the best of both worlds. I'm going to check it out tomorrow.
Yep, not far from that old location. If you get to 183 in Anderson Mill and you're like, wait a minute, this is where Texas Card House is. Not far from there. Not far from there. Other side of 35 is where the brand new TCH Social Austin is located. Thanks to them for their great sponsorship. Thanks to all of you for jumping in. Wow, this is a big word. Oscar, House Divided is the only thing saving me from immunology review. Immunology is a tough word.
5 times fast.
Yeah, immunology is not a word I've ever had to say, Oscar, but we're glad, I guess, to be saving you from that.
Don't blame us, though.
If you need to study, then study. You know,
that's what I used to do. I would, whatever I was, oh my God, the football game is keeping me from getting A's in everything.
Yes, that's right. It's always the football's fault. SEC Hookham says, I thought Wednesday was Chad and Anwar day. We'll see. Will see.
It could be.
I would never presume. We had to go from a meeting to jumping on the show. We'll check and see if Anwar is available, but he's kind of started to open up his Wednesdays over the last few weeks because of, well, frankly, the boss's disdain for the Wednesday show. There's something about House Divided on a Wednesday that he doesn't like. 2 days with me, you got to take a breath to get to the end of the week. That's what Catches realized. So we'll see. We'll see who joins me, if anyone does, for tomorrow.
Chad, that new shelf that you've added, now that it's been pointed out,
yes,
it really jumps out. It looks CGI'd.
Yeah, this one here?
Yeah, like, let's see you grab a helmet so that we know that that's not CGI.
No.
I don't know what you're doing. Okay, yeah, see, not CGI.
Not CGI. Well, the other thing, Catch, I'm glad you noticed not only the new helmet, but we also have new lighting in the Hall of Helmets. Hopefully, the helmets themselves are lit a little better. I thought they deserved a little better lighting. If you desire any more lighting, any less lighting, or a different colored lighting, please let me know because I want to serve you and the people with the Hall of Helmets. So new lighting, new section, new helmets. Shout out to Rick Sacamano and the Sacamano.
I want to get them all autographed. That would be so cool.
That is a weird goal. All right, so let's pick a helmet, and then you tell me what autograph it is. So if this was the one I grabbed was Boston College,
Doug Flutie.
Right, I've recently acquired a Boston College. We could go Doug Flutie on that one.
The fighting Doug Flutie's, like whatever the autograph is, that's who the team is associated with.
Yeah.
So it's also, like the fighting Bubba Smiths.
I can't get the ultimate autograph for this one, but I did just acquire Jackson State right up here. Of course, Walter Payton would be the ultimate. Rest in peace. Jackson State is playing Grambling on Saturday. So we got the matchup
You're
set.
involving the Jackson State Grambling helmets. I think that is really cool. Very inclusive of you.
Well, they're it's also badass helmets. Plus, we have Walter Payton School taking on Doug Williams School, two of my favorite players ever.
So now we know who you have to get autographed on the Grambling helmet.
Great helmet.
Once we get started, it will be a conquest that will take over your life in a very positive way. There are worse things that you could be doing in your life than trying to make the ultimate mini helmet collection, the ultimate mini helmet collection.
Yeah, you should have seen me setting up the lighting yesterday. Then you would have been like, what in the world is he doing? But yeah, that hopefully it's worth it. Hopefully it is worth it. In terms of the conversation today, Catch, it is another recruiting conversation. Of course, Texas is getting ready for ULM this week. No big updates on the whole quarterback situation. Still day to day with Quinn Ewers and whether or not it's going to be him or Arch Manning. We'll obviously be talking about that this week, but we're going to get into some recruiting stuff. There's been a big flip lately. That was a flip from Florida State to Texas with Myron Charles. And today we're talking about another guy that could end up being exactly that, Catch. It's a name that we'll have to practice how to say, but pretty good player. Let's jump in.
Yeah, look, we've talked about this guy a little bit before because we knew he was coming in for this past weekend's visit, but this goes back to wait a minute, Florida's is a dumpster fire. Are there any guys on their commitment list that Texas would have an interest in? The answer turned out to be yes. There's a kid out of Grayson, Georgia, Loganville High School by the name of Joseph Maatu. And he's a mid 3-star prospect for Rivals. So on the surface, no big deal. What's the big deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
6'6", 285. Now that catches my eye because that falls under the category of pretty large human.
The videos are impressive, Catch. When you see him on video, that's impressive stuff.
But he's a big dude. Like he is 6'6", almost 300 pounds. And then you go, okay, well, if you're going to take a flyer on a guy, take a flyer on a guy that's big, really big, athletic, and has some potential playmaking ability. I think his ranking is wrong. He visited Texas this weekend. And there's two elements of this that are really interesting. I think as of today, even though he's committed to Florida, there are signs that Texas may be the team to beat with Maatu, right? But he's visiting Alabama on the 28th, Georgia on the 5th, USC on the 12th of October. So the next 3 weeks, he's got visit. So clearly Texas is going to have its hands full with trying to win this kid. The nation's best are after him. What's really interesting, though, is that the nation's best are after him. Mid 3-star. So
right.
You would think, well, yes, he's committed to Florida, but it won't be that big of a deal. But as it turns out, look, all you need to know about the value of big defensive linemen with an ounce of athletic ability is that when they become open, when they become available, the Alabamas and the Georgias and the Texases and the USCs of the world, they all get involved. So it's turning into one of the more competitive recruitments left in this cycle, but it's for a guy that doesn't come with the profile that you would expect, which to me should be a sign for every single recruiting service to think to themselves, we got to go back and double check on this guy. We've got him at a mid 3, but he's that big, his film's that good, and basically a who's who of college football is trying to lure him in over the course of the next month. Longhorns look like they're in a great position. One of our guys, Sam Spiegelman over at Rivals.com, provided an update today essentially saying, look, the visit was an eye-opener. Spiegelman writes, there's a strong feeling that Texas has jumped to the forefront. So Texas made its pitch. He's had an interest in Texas now for, going on a few weeks into a month now. It will be one to watch. And oh, by the way, Malcolm Simpson, the kid the Texas kid who's committed to Nebraska that we've talked about. We had a source on Orange Bloods. I need to double confirm this, but he says that Simpson, who is very similar to Mbachu, you wonder, would they take both guys? Simpson's scheduled to come in this weekend, as well as the weekend for the Georgia game. So the Longhorns continue on the defensive side of the ball to go for it. They are going for it. If there's a guy with a pulse, they are going after it. And Mbachu and Simpson, both, two of those in the category of guys committed to other schools that the Texas isn't backing off of.
Catch, I want you to tell me what this pattern sort of says to you, because you mentioned it today of these visits he's got coming up, and I know you've seen this in all different versions. So it started with him. The offers were UAB, Georgia Southern, Central Michigan, Western Kentucky. Florida offered, and then 3 days later he commits. Then in kind of the next wave, it was Auburn, South Carolina, and you're thinking, okay, more Power Fours. No, A&M Commerce, Buffalo, Georgia State, Alabama A&M. Jackson State. And then Texas offers on the 14th of August. The visit, as you mentioned, happens like a month after that, just last weekend. What do you make of Alabama, Georgia, and USC coming up? Do you see this as a 3-star guy that may be used to fill out numbers? Or do you see it as, wait a second, if this many big names are involved, this kid may not be a 3-star. This kid may be somebody that gets, looked at, checked out, and then the ranking may go up.
I'm somewhat, it's not entirely connected. And I guess I'll answer those questions specifically in a little bit, but it's a copycat sport. And I'm reminded of when Sam Acho was a prospect in the summer of 2006, 2007. Forgive me for forgetting exactly what year that was. And Acho he doesn't have any offers. He goes to the USC football camp where Pete Carroll is hosting. And he impresses so much at the USC camp that he gets an offer from Pete Carroll. So he's on his way back home to Texas, and the word gets out that USC has offered this kid at, Dallas St. Mark's? Again, forgive me if I know Kellen Thornton went there. Forgive me if I'm getting the schools wrong. But nobody had seen film of Acho. And I can remember we had somebody who was sending us film of Acho, who made a point to send it to Texas first because they knew that USC has offered. The slew of offers was about to occur because it's a copycat sport. If USC's offered this kid, we need to offer this kid. And nobody had actually seen video of Texas or of Acho. They get it into the hands of Mac Brown, who watches the video, knows that Pete Carroll has just seen him up close. He then offers Sam Acho, and Sam Acho commits to Texas like that before the wave occurs. Mm-hmm. And I think this somewhat did happen with Mbachu. He gets that Florida offer, and they probably told him, look, we're only going to take 3 defensive end, 4 defensive ends. We've got 1 spot open. We want you to take it. And he probably said, I'll take it. The words, you can take it, barely came out of the coach's mouth before he probably jumped on it, thinking this is easily the biggest opportunity that I've had.
Yeah.
So I might not get another one. It might not be there forever. I am not missing my train. I'm in. And I think what we've seen is when a school like Florida takes a kid like that, it causes every school that recruits those areas to say, hey, did we miss on this? Who's this? Why this? Our guy was in the state then. Why is this guy not on our radar? And look, a school like Texas now has analysts after analysts and people in recruiting departments and general managers who are combing over Huddle trying to find guys just like this. So I think it's a copycat sport. He needed that. We always say this in the industry. It just takes the right first big offer.
Yeah, one
and
power.
then everybody's in. Because if you're Texas A&M or Texas for that matter, and you find a kid, you don't want the Johnny Manziel story, right? Why didn't this guy go to Texas? Well, they either offered him at a position he didn't want to play, or they didn't offer him at all, or they pulled an Andrew Luck. It's like, well, he came in for an unofficial visit, but Mac didn't even talk to him while he was on the visit. And then it's 20 years later and you're like, oh, the Andrew Luck thing. How could they have let that happen? So everybody's very protective of, even if you offer and it's a non-committable offer, right? It's like, hey, I want to go out. Let's go out on a date. Yes, let's do it. Cool. We're going to go out on a date. When do we go out on the date? I'll let you know. It's like, we're going to go out on a date, but it ain't a date yet. Sometimes that's what offers are. Yeah. I also think, Chad, with this, and Botu is a reminder of, it's hard to find big, talented, athletic defensive linemen. So those guys, more than anywhere else, if you're going to take a flyer on a guy, take it on a guy that's really big, has SEC size, in a best case situation, hasn't played his best football, and see if you can catch lightning in a bottle. The math says you won't, but it's so hard to catch lightning in a bottle that when an opportunity to legitimately do so occurs, more times than not, you have to take it. So I think that explains Alabama, that explains Georgia, that explains Texas, that explains USC. There just aren't enough of these guys that are big and talented to go around. So when one pops up, especially since we're not talking about a guy that's 6'3", 285 or 6'4", we're 6'6", 290-ish, a biscuit short of 300 is just different level. That's a guy that in theory, if he doesn't pan out on the defensive side of the ball, you could even flip him over to offensive tackle and give it a shot, because guys that are legitimately that big, that strong, with a little bit of athleticism are just really hard to find. I mean, we could comb through the Rivals database right now and try to find how many guys have his exact measurables or better from a size standpoint, and we won't have to look for long.
Couple of something that I heard on Joseph in a second. We do have a super chat catch, but let's get a clarification here. ZOV says Mbachu is what he's heard. Do you have confirmation on the batch, or is it botch? Do we know? Because I looked it up. I tried to find an interview with the kid. I could not find one. I don't know. I just wanted to know if you knew for sure.
I'm not for sure.
Gotcha. Okay.
But it makes sense. Mbachu makes sense.
Mbachu. So we'll maybe we'll go with that. ZOV, we appreciate you. Justin, we appreciate a super chat. Off topic real quick. Catch, you ever been to Perry's in the Woodlands?
Of course.
What is Perry's? Sounds like a steakhouse.
It's a steakhouse.
Okay. Good stuff.
The thing about Perry's, besides it just reminding me that I need to get over to our place in Hayes.
Yes.
It makes me think of that. They have an incredible pork chop. So if you go to Perry's, it's a steakhouse, but get the pork chop. It's like 2 pounds. It's way more than any human being can eat. It's like 3 different pieces of the pork, but it's pretty sensational. That's what I would tell you to get if you go to Perry's.
That sounds tasty. A couple quick chats here. We remind you, super chats go right to the top. Text guy is also reminding us, I clicked the like button because I like clickbait. You're damn right you do, text guy, and we appreciate you being here today.
The shadow person that we have in the thumbnail, clickbait.
Clickbait, that is clickbait. And also, just to clarify, Brad, thank you for looking carefully. Is that FSU on top of on air? Gross. Why? It is not. That is the helmet of the Waxahachie Indians, which is similar to Florida State in that they both use the spear, but that is the helmet of my high school on top of the on-air sign. But thank you, Brad.
What's on either side of the on-air?
Those would be the military recognition versions of the Cowboys and the Bucks that I got last Veterans Day.
Those are just helmets that you like that you didn't otherwise know what to do with. So by God, put them right in the center on the on-air.
Right, center top. Those are just not going to move because those are helmets that kind of describe who I am. Those are my teams. Those are my 2 NFL teams. That's my high school team. There you go.
I didn't know that. I mean, if I get you a McCallum Knight mini helmet, can we get it up there too? Just so I can have a helmet?
If you'd like, absolutely.
Oh man, I'll investigate.
If you get me a McCallum Knights helmet, we will find a way.
If I autographed it, and then that's what starts the autographed helmet collection.
There you go. Yes, if you autograph it, we will put it up there, and you can even decide where it goes within reason.
I mean, what if we got a McCallum mini helmet with me and Tom Kite?
I'd say, do we really need you?
Oh, damn!
Frankly, I mean, what are we doing?
Well, here's the thing. I once tried to get Tom Kite to do an interview with me when I was a sports editor of the Shield at McCallum High School, and got told no. So
yeah, he big timed you?
He did. He had no love for the McCallum. I tried for like 4 years.
Damn.
Tom had no time for the Shield.
Okay, that's rough.
So I don't know how easy it would be to get Tom to sign the helmet, is what I'm saying.
We will get it done if it needs to get done. Thanks to over 540 folks in the Specs chat. Thanks to our great partners around here. Of course, we mentioned Texas Card House earlier. How about AV Consultations? You are a few games in, Texas fans, and you're number 1 in the country. I just saw somebody in the chat mention haven't even played an SEC game yet, and you're already the number 1 team in the country. What a special season it is. If you don't have the special setup you've always wanted, this is the place that can get it for you. AV Consultations, 255-8678. The number's right there for you. Click on that QR code. It'll take you to the website. You can start looking at those pictures of how they set stuff up. Or just go hit lunch at Pluckers today, or go hit a Cover 3 in the Austin area. They set both of those places up, and it can give you ideas of maybe something you didn't think of. Oh, a screen can go there? Yep. Oh, wait, I could have one giant screen that actually then turns into 4 different screens? Yep. And a lot more options too. 255-8678 or avconsultations.com. Check them out today, AV Consultations. It is House Divided on this Tuesday. Recruiting stuff to talk about. And so, Ketch, you mentioned that. Let me see if I can do it. Mbatu? Is that what we're going to go with? Mbatu. Joseph Mbatu. You mentioned that it's Alabama, Georgia, USC the next 3 weeks, correct?
Yes.
And am I right in saying that the Florida, he was committed to, is committed to Florida.
Correct.
The Texas visit was an unofficial or an official?
I believe it was an official visit.
An official visit. And then this Alabama, Georgia, USC official visits coming up, or?
I believe that's the case.
Okay. All right. And I guess slight technical question, but I'm assuming that tells you a little something as well, right? I mean, if the school is willing to connect with an official visit, that tells us something about the quality of this player, right?
No, like they all want him. They all have made him, varying degrees of priority. I mean, I wouldn't say he's the biggest priority for all of these schools, but this late in the process to be, still fiddling around, again, position, the equity of just trying to find guys of this size is difficult to do. There aren't that many of them. So it's not a surprise that the schools that typically have the biggest players would be interested in a guy that brings a lot of size to the table. He's listed as a strong side defensive end in the Rivals database, but he's going to be an interior guy when it's all said and done. We're talking about a guy, again, it's about a biscuit shy of 300 pounds. And he's a guy that you can pretty easily see 6'6", 320 in a couple of years. And if he's able to keep some of that athleticism, playmaking ability, you're talking about a guy that's got a chance. Now, look, mathematically, the odds are still really stacked against him. You're not talking about a guy that's going to be 60%, 50%, 40% chance of playing on Sundays. It's half that at best. It's 20, 15, 10%, something like that. But if he hits, the quality of that 20% might not be there's a 20% chance that he's a 7th round pick. It might be there's a 20% chance that he's a second day pick. So, I think that the upside is what makes him as much as anything else. That if you hit on him, you're hitting on a potential high-end Sunday player. And on that side of the ball at that position, that's a really hard thing to find.
So catch a little note that I saw on him earlier. I was watching, I guess it was kind of a camp video, maybe some camp that he was at and going through some drills and stuff. But I saw a note that he's only been playing football like 6 months, something like that. Do you have any other details on that? Because there's a lot of reasons why that could be the case, but it could also explain to us why the 3-star ranking. And
I don't, or I would have already given them to you. But
Okay.
I've heard that as well. He's still. I can't say that I've done the deep dive on him yet. I've watched him, but I probably need to. Anytime there's an out-of-state guy, it's like, well, I don't rank those guys. So it's not, like I have an opinion. I've watched him play. I have some thoughts. But yeah, he's a guy that I need to do a little bit more investigating on. I have a feeling that by the time we get to December, this is a guy that will be rated as 4 stars.
Okay. Yeah. Because it's always fascinating to me, a guy that's that athletically gifted, that looks the part. And then you say, well, he's only been playing football for like a half a year. And it's like, well, why is that? So there's probably, a family story, or could be another sport, right? Maybe he was just into another sport. Maybe he wasn't into sports at all. And then all of a sudden he gets introduced to football and it fits really well. So just another reason to keep your eye on Joseph Mbatu, 6'6", 285. Go look him up. It's pretty impressive. He's a damn good player, and right now listed as a 3-star by Rivals. I do not see any super chats right now. If you want to know, there it is. There's one. We already got that one. If you want to throw one in, it will go right to the top of the list.
It's right about the time when you say I don't see any super chats that I become convinced that we've missed a super chat.
Well, I say that because I'm hoping that it will bring the good luck of a super chat, because
someone will let you know. No, Chad, no.
Because I've been known to miss one or two. Sometimes, as we learned yesterday, sometimes people just type in money amounts and they think that's a super chat. So we've just got to get everything straight. And if I miss them, I want to make sure to get them. So that's that's why we do that. Got to mention it.
By the way, for the record, completely unrelated, but I wanted to go back to if I get you a McCallum Knight mini helmet.
Yes.
It won't be. I think the goal would not be to have either myself or Tom Kite sign the helmet.
Okay.
I think you'd have to go for ex-McCallum Knight and former Texas rowing star and Olympian Kate Nifton.
That sounds like a plan.
Like, she's
really
much more beautiful than either myself. Well, Tom Kite's pretty stunning, but she's younger. She's active. She was literally an Olympian a month ago.
I would take
any like of that. Would one up both Tom and I.
There's a lot of greatness in all 3 autographs. I would take any of them and proudly display the helmet in the Hall of Helmets. So
I wonder if Kate has ever signed a football helmet.
I don't know. It would only be, I only have one high school helmet. I've never gotten into collecting high school helmets. So it would only be the second one I have. I would have my high school and your high school. That would be perfect. It would be excellent.
Who signs the Waxahachie helmet? Is that Lamont? Who signs that?
I would love for Lamont Moore to sign the helmet. There's a lot of good possibilities. You have Lamont Moore. You could have Monte Rager. You could have Jalen Rager.
You have the entire Rager family.
The whole Rager family could do it. A couple other members of the. I think I'd go to that state championship team though, since that was my senior year, and I actually know those people enough. I think a couple of those guys would.
You went into the Hall of Fame with Lamont.
That is true. That is true. Hall of Fame day with Lamont. I think he would probably be the right choice. Okay, strange super chat, but we love him. $4.99 from Brad. Which song is playing as you arrange the helmets for the week? Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, Taylor Swift?
I like it. This is a good question.
A weird question. Normally, there's not music playing when I arrange the helmets. This morning, I did it for the NFL week. As you can see, it's all set up for this week. Cowboys hosting the Ravens, Texans at Minnesota this week, but no music. I got to focus. I got to focus on the arranging of the helmets. Can't have music going.
Help focus? You need to play some music.
No, music does not help me focus. Not on these kind of things.
Really?
Not on those kind of things. Just got to get it done and move on to the next thing.
I'm a big music gets me focused guy.
Yeah, music gets me distracted because I love music to the point where I'd be thinking about, now what album is this on? And I need to listen to more of that. No, we got to focus in. Focus in. Where are the Browns playing this week? They're hosting the Giants. Boom. Wait. Boom. Boom. There it is. All right. $2.99 from just two flat. $2. Who loses their job first? Florida State coach or Florida? That's easy. Florida.
Yeah, it's easy.
Easy. Remember, they just gave the Florida State coach, is it 8 additional years?
Yeah, it's till like 2073.
It wasn't quite like Jimbo with A&M. It wasn't that.
Not that far away though either.
But it's not far. They just didn't do the guaranteed thing. They have a little easier way to get out of it.
The thing with Norvell, they got the quarterback wrong. Like if you take DJU and put him on Miami, and you take Cam Ward and put him on Florida State's undefeated and then in borderline top 5 right now, and Miami's an afterthought. People want to make this an indictment on the portal and look, this is what can go wrong when you get the portal wrong. It's like, no, Texas fans know this. This is what happens when you get the quarterback wrong. Yeah. The only difference between the 2012 Aggies and the 2012 Longhorns, the 2012 quarterback for one of those two teams versus the 2012 quarterback for the other. It's a quarterback sport. They didn't have somebody in their pipeline, so they went into the portal and they got it wrong. And for me, it's as simple as that. So when I look at Norvell, I know their heads are falling off their pets. I get it. But get the quarterback right next year, and I think that ship gets righted. The problem is you can't right the quarterback ship in the middle of the season. If they had somebody better than DJU, they would not have gone after DJU.
Right.
They went after him because they needed that guy immediately. And, look, the thing is, there's success stories about quarterbacks transferring everywhere. But what doesn't get written enough is what happens to the quarterbacks. Malachi Nelson transferred to Boise State, Chad. He lost that job.
Yeah.
What happens when the quarterback transfer doesn't work out, it can leave quite a mark. And that's what's happened to Florida State. I think Norvell is going to keep his job. The Florida coach is dead man walking.
Yeah, it's funny. The only reason I can tell you who Florida's playing is because it's set up behind me. Florida is at Mississippi State this week, but on the sheet of paper I make every week to, figure out what games I'm going to be watching, I didn't put Florida or Florida State on there this week. Couldn't even tell you who Florida State's playing. I'd have to look it up. And then that Florida Mississippi State game is, again, it didn't even make the list.
The last Florida State game we might keep.
Wait, no, there it is. I'm sorry. It's an 11 a.m. kick. It's the ESPN game at 11. I did put it on the list, but I had to just hunt
liar.
I had to hunt that thing down. But that's the game that'll follow game day this week. But it is, that's Florida. No.
I know what I'm not doing at 11 o'clock.
Exactly. No, I'm watching. What are the games I'm watching at 11? Ohio State plays at 11. Clemson, NC State's at 11. Kansas and West Virginia. All right, I might peek in on
I'll tell you what, Clemson and NC State is I don't think either of those two teams is for real. But the winner of that game, we might emerge and say they're kind of for real.
Yeah. True.
Like not for real, but up from not very for real to maybe for real.
I'll tell you the team you want to watch in that conference. They play at 6. Miami is at South Florida. And if there is an ACC front runner right now, man, Miami's looking really good. They have an evening kick this week. Couple of quick chats. Speaking of college football, Tyler threw this in earlier. Did y'all see Tennessee is charging talent fees on their football tickets? Tyler, I did see that earlier. Catch, you saw that story. They're going to add a little charge on there, and I guess ultimately the money gets used to pay players.
Is that all going to go into the NIL collective?
I guess. I
mean, it would have to.
They'll have to figure out how it's utilized. Remember, we still don't know how much money they're really allowed to pay these players. Is it $20 million? Is it a little more?
But they know it's not zero anymore.
They know it's not zero, so they're getting ready to pay. Tyler, all I can tell you is that the sadness of ticket fees continues. And by the time Ketch and I are in our 70s and 80s, you know, there'll be like 50 fees on every ticket and nobody will be able to go to anything. It's terrible.
The thing is, like, whenever I go, like if I order something off of Grubhub and they hit me with, I'll tell you the one that gets me the most. When I order movie tickets, online, there are times when my local movie theater charges almost $10 a service fee per ticket.
Ugh.
So you're like, wait a minute, why
gross.
are the tickets $90?
That's gross.
And it's like, well, because each ticket has a $10 service fee, and you're like, that's BS.
Yeah.
However, if on the tickets it said service feed to feed a homeless family in the Houston area that's down on their luck and like this just gonna help have a roof over their head tonight, I would be like, okay, cool. Take my $10 per ticket. It's going to the Ketchum family in East Houston, right? Well, if they did that with service charges, I don't think people will complain. If it says talent fees and in parentheses to pay the football players, I feel like people will be like, okay, well, I'm doing my part.
See, that's where if I was an alum and I'm a season ticket holder, that's the kind of thing I'd pay gladly. I would gladly pay that. Absolutely. Yeah, that I would have no problem with. $2 super chat from Justin. Arch versus Nico from Tennessee. See who the true number one quarterback is. Of course, Texas and Tennessee are not on the schedule this year. They could meet in Atlanta, theoretically, but that would be a hell of a matchup.
This is just so crazy to me. I was looking at it earlier today. The top 8 teams. So we did our Orange Bloods power poll, and I haven't published it yet, but I've got all the points compiled of the top 8 teams in the SEC right now in the Orange Bloods power poll. Texas, Georgia, Bama, Ole Miss, Tennessee. Tennessee's right behind Ole Miss. Missouri, LSU, and then Oklahoma. So of the top 7 teams that we currently are voting as the top 7 teams in the SEC, Texas plays 1. They play Georgia.
Yeah.
Oklahoma plays all 7 except for 1, Georgia.
Yeah, it's crazy.
They play Bama, Ole Miss, Texas, Tennessee, Missouri, and LSU. It's bonkers.
Yeah, it is. Last night, Chance Mock, we went over Chance's SEC power rankings that he does for the Houston Chronicle. And Texas is playing 6 of the bottom 7.
Oh, yeah.
In his rankings. Let me ask you a quick question. When you put your personal rankings together, I'm assuming you went Texas, Georgia, Bama, 1, 2, 3.
Correct.
Did you give any consideration to Bama at 2?
I did.
Because as we were going through that discussion last night, I thought, well, I get the argument for why Texas would go above Georgia, but doesn't the same argument put Bama above Georgia in theory?
I did. I came really close.
Okay.
But then at the end of the day, I thought about the 3 games that have been played, and Georgia has the mollywhopping of Clemson, which Alabama doesn't. I know they did that to Wisconsin, but I think Clemson's a better football team. So I gave Georgia the number 2 spot because I think they've got clearly, in my mind, the best win between Georgia and Alabama. But I did. You know why? Because I think Jalen Milroe runs circles around Carson Beck. I keep doing this deal where if I take Carson Beck, and let's just walk through it real quick. If I put Carson Beck on Texas and Quinn Ewers on Georgia, I think Georgia's the number 1 team in America. I think Texas is like a 2-loss team, or maybe a 1-loss team. Maybe the rest of the talent at Texas is so good that there's not a drop-off. But, man, when I look at Alabama, to me, Jalen Milroe is in a completely different galaxy than Carson Beck, who is, for me, he's like the Steve Walsh of 2024. He's a great bus driver of a team that's loaded with talent. But the farther you go down the list, like, I don't think Oklahoma is suddenly a much better team if you take Jackson Arnold off that team and put Carson Beck on it. I think Carson Beck's the kind of guy that if you give him a great car, he'll drive it perfectly. But he needs a great car. And I don't know. There are other quarterbacks that I look at, and I wonder, look, if Ole Miss and Georgia played on a neutral field, right now I'm taking Jackson Dart over Carson Beck. And
they're going to play
Saturday night at Kentucky. Carson Beck kind of showed that a little bit.
Yeah, that's a guy that catch, like, in the last year or so, there are a couple guys, like at one point early last year, I had a thought of, man, would I take Wigman over Ewers? But certainly right now I take Ewers. And then going into this season, I'm thinking, okay, does Georgia have the quarterback advantage in that game in Austin? At one point I thought they did. Not now. Now I would go with Ewers. And I don't know if there's a ton of doubt in that situation. Ewers
I think we saw so much. We see so much of Ewers on a day in and day out basis that we know most of the nation is like, oh, I remember the Alabama game. He was lights out, right?
Right.
Whereas we've seen every game and we like, well, he doesn't throw the deep ball well. And you've got your nitpicks baked in. Yeah. Here's what keeps coming back to me with Georgia. In the SEC championship game last year, Jalen Milroe was the best player on the field. I don't remember Carson Beck in that game.
That's fair. That's fair. And I thought they were the better team that day. I thought they were going to beat Bama that day. I made an argument that maybe if you had a playoff that made sense, they should have been in it. I think we can all agree that. Yeah. If you had a playoff that made sense, Georgia was still dangerous going into that playoff season. But at that moment, was Beck better than Milroe and Ewers? No.
And I'm not saying that Beck's not good.
Right.
That's not the discussion.
He's just not those guys.
The discussion is these other guys are legitimately the best players in college football.
Yeah.
Like, and Jalen Milroe is one of the best players in college football.
Yep. And the other thing to remember is unlike Ewers, both of those guys, Milroe certainly, new head coach, new system, trying to figure all that out. And the system that Georgia is running right now isn't that incredibly successful system that won them back-to-back titles. That guy's calling plays in the NFL right now. In fact, he'll call plays against the Cowboys this week with the 0-2 Ravens, but that's a whole nother story.
It's a scary game.
Dude, you want to talk about a mean, nasty 0-2 team coming to see the Cowboys? That's a wounded animal I don't know if I want to deal with as a Cowboys fan.
The Cowboys should be the wounded animal in that game.
They should be.
But they won't be because the Ravens are inexplicably 0-2.
Yeah.
So they'll be the wounded animal. Again, when I picked the Cowboys to go 9-8 or 10-7, this is exactly what I had in mind. It's like one week they'll look like they're a playoff winning team, and the next week they'll lose by 20 to the Saints. and back and forth we go.
Roller coaster ride, no doubt about it. S. Roan, thank you for $20 in a super chat. We
Chad,
appreciate
it's not a
it.
roller coaster; it's a seesaw.
It is a seesaw. That's probably more fair. If you're a roller coaster, would actually be fun. If you're an NFL GM, do you surrender your 25 and 26 first round picks for the rights to Arch?
Yes, I would.
Both?
Yeah.
Give
Yeah,
it
I mean,
all
you go
up.
in, look, these trades don't look. All you have to do is look at the Bryce Young trade to realize that if you get that wrong, it can really set you back. But I'm convinced that Arch is going to be phenomenal. He has it. He has it. It may be the thing that he has more than anything else. And there's a precociousness to him, and that he almost seems aloof or oblivious to his it factor. But he has it, man. That dude, it's like in Swingers. He doesn't even know how good he is.
Yeah.
He's so good, he doesn't even know how good he is. There will become a point in his career when he does, and that's the part where you feel like the kid's got the glow. But yes, if I'm an NFL team, I would give up 2 firsts for the rights to have Arch. Arch might be one of those guys that when it's all said and done, you'll hear the media talking about teams tanking seasons to get the worst record so that they can make that draft pick. The problem is not in every draft, there's not always that guy. I wonder, all those quarterbacks went first this year, and most of them were guys that I was like, really? It reminds me of like the year that Marcus Mariota came out and Jameis Winston. And I was like, I don't know that I like either of those guys to be longtime successful NFL starters, but you got to draft somebody. Arch is going to make somebody really happy one day.
What a time to be a Texas football fan. Like this video if you haven't done it. Like this video on the way out if you didn't like it on the way in, or if you have a function right now, like this video right now on behalf of Arch Manning. How
Chad,
about
ask you? We have a super chat. Okay.
$5 super chat from Tracy. I'm concerned Texas has struggles. Oh, I like this. Struggles to maintain an effective run game between the tackles, with most gains coming from outside runs. Your assessment? Way to get back to X's and O's, Tracy. Focus. Eyes on the prize. What do you think, Catch?
I'm not really worried about it. They have not really been able to have a healthy Jaden Blue to turn loose. It's not going to be an issue for a few weeks. They'll get Jaden Blue back. I think he's their best running back. I thought he was their best running back when everybody is healthy. And I think that Jarrett Gibson is showing that he can be a guy that gives you some effective running between the tackles. I think Jarrett Gibson at this moment looks better at the exact same time as CJ Baxter did a year ago. That they're at least comparable. So if you get a healthy Jaden Blue back, which I think Texas feels like they're going to get that back, you're going to have, I think, maybe the Thunder and Lightning partnership that you hope that you would have at the beginning of the season when it was Baxter and Blue. I think Gibson's at least as good as Baxter, had showed us up until his hurting his knee. So I feel you, Tracy, but I'm not really all that worried. Although I will say that the schedule shapes up that you might not know it's a problem until it's a problem. Like you're not going to come out of Lawman Road on Saturday going, man, our inside running game just not going to be. Everybody's going to look at you like you're an alien with 5 heads on your shoulders.
Yeah.
But you could get to Georgia, and it's like, oh, Texas couldn't run the ball at all, at which point Tracy will look back and go, boy, there were all the signs in the first 5-6 games of the season when it wasn't happening, and we just kind of blew it off. So I'm not worried, but that's completely fair.
Yeah, because at one point we thought Texas was going to have a pretty good to maybe really good football team on their schedule by this point. They have none. They have none of those yet. So kind of hard to tell. Tracy, thank you for that super chat. Catch, you had a question for me?
I did. Let's forget about Texas for a second, okay? Because we're having this Texas has the best quarterback room in the country discussion. And, I've made the point that I think they could have 2 of the top 10 quarterbacks in the country right now in the same quarterback room.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think it's definitely true.
Who's the number 2 quarterback room in America? And I think I know. But I'm curious what your answer to that would be.
Who's the number 2 quarterback room in America? Without looking or without digging, I'll give the coach the respect to say it's USC. Like whoever the dude is behind that guy, I'm going to say he's good enough that maybe they're the second best.
You might be right. I was thinking Alabama because they've got Jalen Milroe and then Ty Simpson.
Okay.
Is behind him.
That could be it.
Simpson's a young guy who was a borderline 5-star talent. I watched him a little bit on Saturday against Wisconsin, and it was like, oh, yeah. Now, the thing is, I don't think compare Ty Simpson to Arch Manning, even though they are contemporaries. But it's got to be somebody who's got a badass number 1, right? Such a badass number 1 that they're in the top 5 to 10 in the country at a minimum. They got to be at minimum top 10, but certainly in the ballpark of top 5. So Milroe pops out. I don't feel that. I wouldn't say that about. I would take Alabama over Ohio State. I would take Alabama over Mississippi, but Mississippi's got Jackson Dart, but I can't name their backup off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't know what that full room looks like.
If you wanted to give Nico at Tennessee that kind of love, okay, but I don't know who the backup is, and I don't know that Nico belongs on the same level as Jalen Milroe and or Quinn Ewers at this point. Oregon does have Dylan Gabriel, and they got the transfer this past year. Didn't they get? It might be Oregon, actually.
Okay.
Let me look up Oregon's depth chart real quick.
I was going to say, I can't remember who's with it. By the way, Catch, while you're doing that, I have not mentioned my quarterback sadness of the week. Remember that cat that Bama and A&M both had committed at one point named Eli Holstein?
Yeah.
Do you know where he is now?
No idea. Mississippi
He's
State.
At Pitt. No, he's at Pitt. Look. There's certain things we need in this world, and for me, as the crap bag, I need a kid named Holstein to play in the South. I'm sorry. We can't have a kid named Holstein playing at Pitt.
I kind of disagree with you. Holstein sounds like a guy that could have been a mobster in the early 1920s in New York.
No, that's crap. We got to have, I think a Holstein. I think of a good old Holstein cow standing in the field, chewing her cud, waiting to go to the dairy machine. We need to get that kid to the South.
Okay, but look, if I type in, I'm Googling New York mobsters 1920s.
Holstein just doesn't work.
What's that?
That name doesn't sound like a mobster to me.
Holstein? It sounds like
it's a cow.
It could be like a Jewish mob boss.
See, that's where that's the country in me coming out. My whole life, if I hear the word Holstein, I see the cow. I can see the cow in my mind when I say the word.
No cows.
You don't know what a Holstein cow is?
No idea.
Man, I am country. There's Aggie jokes going to be filling this chat in the next 12 seconds. Y'all go right ahead.
If I said, tell me if it jumps out, okay?
Okay.
Charlie Lucky Luciano, Vincent Mangano, Tommy Gagliano, Joseph Bonanno, Eli Holstein, Joe Profassi, Al Capone, Stefano Magadino. Like, don't those names all sound like they go together?
They sound similar. Catch. Here's all you've seen. Like on Ben, is it Ben and Jerry's that use it or others? You've seen a commercial where they just have a black and white cow, right? A cow that's black and white.
Yeah.
That's a Holstein. That is a Holstein cow, a dairy cow. So I'm just telling you.
Isn't it just a dairy cow?
Yes, that's all I think of when I hear the word.
I've never heard of a Holstein cow.
Okay. I'm telling you, when I hear the kid's name, that's all I think of. Okay. But there you go. Holstein
I'm just telling you that I hear that name and I'm like, is he a member of the Gambino family?
See, and to me, when the first part is whole, I think either wholesome, which is not the mob, or whole milk, which is not the mob. and I just can't think of the mob. Luciano, I'm with you.
If you hear Luciano, you're like, that guy's killed somebody.
If the kid's name was Luciano, let him play at Pitt. Let him play at Pitt all day.
I'm just saying, it has a very New York City feel to me. Like,
Okay.
I don't think he just has to play in the South.
Okay. All right. Fair
But
enough.
I understand because of the cows. You're from the Hatch.
It's a cow thing. It's a cow thing. It's a Hatch
You're
thing.
like, that kid needs to be either at A&M. It needs to be at a school that has a historical agriculture and like animal program. Animal husbandry needs to be at the school.
Was he animal? Was he Aggie first and then Bama, or was he Bama and then A&M? I can't remember. It went Bama to A&M, right? No,
yes.
I mean, is that what it
Whatever.
was? Whichever way, right?
Honest, it almost is in one ear, out the other.
Yeah, I think he may have gone. It may have been an A&M commit because it had to do with other quarterbacks. I can't remember how it all shook out. I think he ultimately ended up at Bama, which I was okay with because, like, all right, still country or SEC, go play. And now he's at Pitt. So,
it's very one of those like Office Space. It's like Nagano, not gonna work here anymore. It's like, you know, is it Bama? Was it A&M? It's not gonna worry about his Pitt anymore. It's very much I don't have to worry about it anymore because he doesn't matter. It was at A&M first, and then he committed to Alabama.
And then Bama. There you go. All right,
we signed a letter of intent with Alabama, and then entered the portal a year later.
Almost 700 folks in the Specs chat. One of the main reasons we tell you to send super chats is obviously because you're putting money in the tip jar, and it helps us to do this. The other reason is to stop conversations like this. When we get going on mess like this, you can actually stop it if you send us a super chat.
We're so close to the 1 o'clock hour.
We will get right to those. We're almost to 1 o'clock. That means buy or sell. I might not be able to see catches buy or sell. Things might get real crazy.
I didn't even enter the buy or sell questions today after what happened yesterday.
There you go. So we won't even see those for sure. We got all that is coming up real quick. Let me thank one of our great partners. Despite what you've just heard and seen, I did get a good night's sleep last night. That's how I get into these real high level Eli Holstein kind of conversations. It's sinus and snoring specialist. I sleep well every night. I feel great. I don't have to deal with allergies. I don't have to deal with snoring and sleep apnea. And now my wife doesn't have to deal with the snoring and sleep apnea that she was going through. She feels so much better. She gets up damn early in the morning. If you're like my wife and you have one of those jobs that makes you get up really early, you got to make sure you're sleeping well. You got to make sure you're resting well. You can't let something like snoring or sleep apnea get in the way. Get it taken care of. There's your QR code. Click on into the website, sinussnoringent.com. Start looking at things there. Or you can just give them a call, 601-0303. They're right there at Mopac and Parmer in Austin. Over 20 years of experience for Dr. Slaughter and the crew. Sinus and snoring specialists. Feel clear, rested, and healthy so you can have conversations about kids named Holstein and all kinds of other stuff. All right, we are almost to the top of the hour. Catch, do you want to buy or sell, or do we need to mention something else in the recruiting realm in terms of Mr. Mbachu?
No, I think, we wondered whether or not he might commit this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Jason prepared the article. I gave consideration to writing an instant analysis piece just to be sure. So I think there's, I think there's a real good chance. And look, we should even still probably be on commitment watch.
Mm-hmm.
The moment, though, that he goes to even one of those other visits, it's like all bets are off. It's a real recruiting battle at that point that, I think if you're Texas, you would have. I think the thing that Texas is in a pretty enviable position is that they've now, I think they're doing well enough at the defensive tackle position that, they've got Malcolm Simpson coming in. You maybe can't take both guys, but you might be able to play both guys against each other. You might be able to tell Malcolm Simpson when he comes in this weekend, look, we're going to take one more defensive tackle or one more defensive lineman at kind of your ilk And the other guy visited last week. And we've told both of you guys that whichever one takes the offer is the guy that we're going to take. You might be able to do that with both of those guys in a way that helps you. At least, hey, if you're Texas, you're like, if we can come away with one of those guys, really good. Because suddenly you do have Josiah Sharma. You know, you have been able to go in and flip Myron Charles. From Texas's perspective, while they know that they need to sign more defensive tackles because of how many they lose this year, they're still in a position where I think from a high school standpoint, they've got maybe the two they really coveted the most. Now it's like, well, look, how many – we know that Sarkisian's probably saying, look, we know we're going to go get a couple of guys from the portal. We're going to need some experience. We're going to need to replace – part of what is making this Texas defense what it is right now is that they've got a lot of – they don't have a single Murphy or Sweat. But they got a bunch of older guys that have been through the battles before that have – if you look up, you're like, well, Brodden's playing pretty good. And you're like, you know what? I didn't see this guy or that guy play a whole lot. But I did notice them. And, you know, you feel pretty good about that position. Well, you're going to lose all of that. So – matter of fact, let me just real quick click on Alex's story from yesterday. Somebody bunched the numbers from all of the positions. So Alex has all the positions tracked. I thought this was really interesting, though. If you look at it by position, let me see if I can find that. Surely I'm not crazy. I know it was there. There it is. So if we look at defensive tackle, okay, these are your snaps at the defensive tackle position. Broughton's got 84. He's gone. Alfred Collins has 77. He's gone. Lole has 55. He's a senior, right? Yes. Norton's got 35. He's gone. Savea's got 27. He's gone. Of the guys that you expect to come back next year, Alex January has 28 snaps through 3 games. Sadir Mitchell has 20. Jure Bledsoe has 12. Aaron Bryant has 10. And that's playing a couple of guppies, right? I know Michigan is Michigan, but in 2 of those games, it's UTSA and Colorado State. So when we look at the bottom of that list, we know they've got to bring in older, more proven guys. They can sign however many young defensive linemen that they want in the interior to kind of bolster that position. They're going to have to go into the portal. They're not going to be able to take a chance as much as they like Alex January. You know, if that guy sees 150 snaps or less than 200 snaps this season because he's the number 5 or number 6 defensive tackle, no matter how, depending on how you kind of slot it, you can't take that chance. They didn't this year because Alex January would kind of represent the Sadir Mitchell or the Jure Bledsoe or the Aaron Bryant from a year ago. So when you see, I think they like their defensive tackle recruiting, and clearly they're not done. But we have to know somewhere along the way, they're going to save a couple of spots for guys in the portal. They're just, in 2025, they'll have a ready-made national championship contender, and they will not be able to risk going into the season with that much youth at the defensive tackle position. So while we're talking about Mbachu and Malcolm Simpson and the guys they have committed, I just think everybody needs to file it away in their head. Portal, portal, portal. They're not going to sign 5 this year. And maybe they won't sign 3. But I think the 2 that they sign, they may decide that they need to have somebody that has an Isaiah Bond level of immediate impact. They didn't get that this past year with Lole and Savea and Norton. They got rock steady, solid players. But at some point along the lines, you know they'd like to sign somebody who really elevates that position, if only for a year. I think just file that in the back of your head that we're going to talk about the Mbachus and the Malcolm Simpsons, but those will be those will be projects in this class. Those will be guys that Texas will look at and say, we're not getting an immediate contribution. Might not even get it by year 2. These might be year 3 guys, but that's okay. Because if those guys are good enough to work on that scale and they have the patience, then they're perfect. If they're not, you wash them out and you get a different guy the next year. That's the thing about the new scholarship rules. You're not sitting around necessarily waiting anymore for your graduation rates to be at a certain level, or you're going to get in trouble. The whole sports widespread transferring, it's going to be really hard to maintain some of the demands that the college football asked of football programs in previous years. So when I look at what they're doing, Chad, I would just say, man, don't forget portal. That given what they have at the defensive tackle position from an experienced department, the way that we probably should really judge defensive tackle recruiting this year, you have to include the portal guys. Because if we get to January and it's like, well, these are the guys they signed in high school and they're their favorite guys, but they also signed a guy who was all ACC and another guy who was all Pac-12 or whatever, and then those guys are now in the starting lineup, that's how, to me, that group gets an A, and you really feel like, other than signing a real super blue chip 5-star level guy, they will have accomplished, I think, what they wanted to accomplish. So we're still a ways away, I think, from judging that position accurately.
Got a couple super chats that we will get to. Catch, while you were talking, I looked up something on Maatu, just maybe to file away. If you're correct that the next 3 visits are Bama, Georgia, USC, just keep this in mind. Bama's on an off week this week. Next week, if he visits Georgia, Georgia goes to Bama next week. And then 3 weeks from now, USC's on the road. So just something to keep in mind. And I'm seeing the Texas visit as an unofficial visit. So maybe this kid's about to take 3 unofficial visits to 3 places that are not hosting football games. Bama, Georgia, and USC the next 3 weeks are not hosting a football game at all.
Then we'll have to check on that and try to figure out.
The ordering, like, it would make way more sense that he go to Bama in 2 weeks, because
I think he's going to Bama in 2 weeks. It's the 28th, if I'm not mistaken.
If it's Bama the 28th, that makes total sense. That's the game with Georgia. That would make way more sense.
It's not next week. He's got visits set up end of September and then 2 in October.
End of September. Okay, gotcha. All right, so it's pushed back a week and starting. That would make a lot more sense. Okay, so something to keep an eye on there. With Mbachu, we had a couple of super chats come in. We'll go to our man Wes. Look at here. What up, Wes? $5. Buy or sell. Get Jonte Cook on the effing field. I mean, he had 2 touchdowns last week, right? Yes, Wes, I agree. Buy, but they've done it.
It's kind of crazy. I agree with Wes. I would have Jonte Cook playing over Matthew Golden. Matthew Golden's got like 3 touchdowns, though. There's quite a problem that Texas has, that you can go 5 or 6 deep at wide receiver, and everybody. It's like the John Wick movie series, Chad. I feel like you could poll 10 people what order of the movies they like, and 10 different people will give you 10 different combinations of, I like the 4th movie first, and then the first movie, and I think the wide receivers at Texas are like the John Wick movies. Ask 10 different people in order how they like the wide receivers, and everybody's order is a little bit different.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And also, I'll ask the stupid, I don't know, football question, but like, why does Jonte Cook have to play, or Matthew Golden has to play? Like,
because they play the hell out of 12 personnel.
Okay, they can't be on the field at the same time. You get 3 receivers.
Not in 12 personnel. Because you got 2 tight ends on the field. They play 2 tight ends more than 50% of the time on offense. So they don't do a lot of that. So there is a robbing Peter to pay Paul thing about the wide receivers, because somebody has to come off for somebody to go on.
You're telling me they play 2 tights over 50% of plays?
I'll give you the numbers here. This would be the numbers through the first 2 games of the season. So forgive me.
Because Because I know they're playing some 12. I didn't know it was that much 12.
Let me pull it up. Just got to give me a second. You know, like, can we pay a bill and then I come back and pay a bill?
We can do that.
Pay a bill.
We can pay a bill. Eventually, you'll pay a bill, but this time we'll let Specs pay a bill. Specs has a whiskey sale. Pay attention.
Specs for our whiskey sale and enjoy the lowest prices on Texas' largest selection of whiskey. But hurry, these deals won't last long. Specs, cheers to savings.
Again, to October 5th. That's the off week for Texas. So through that weekend, you got that whiskey sale going on at Specs. Keep it in mind. Also, this super chat came in just kind of off the topic, but Michael, thank you for the $1.99. Meyer Lansky, Arnold Rothstein, Eli Holstein.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
There you go. Two of those three, Michael. The word Holstein is never going to sound like a mob thing to me. I'm too country. Sorry. I'm too country. I was raised around cows. My granddad was a cattle farmer.
No, man, if you tell me that Eli Holstein hung out with Meyer Lansky, I'm like, yeah, no, that's right. I heard that before. I saw that documentary.
Part of me growing up was my granddad would be driving out to the farm, and if we saw cows, he would make me identify the cows, what I was seeing. And if I saw those black and white cows out in the field, I knew that was a Holstein.
If I said Eli Holstein was the cousin of Nucky Thompson in Boardwalk Empire,
okay,
you'd be like, yeah, that's right. I remember that.
Yes, but because you said Nucky Thompson, I would just say, oh, his name does not make me think of that ever. Okay. I'm sorry. It just doesn't.
I'm just saying he could have been a mob boss in New York in the 20s.
Yeah, could have been.
100 years ago, he's either standing next to a cow or shooting somebody in the face with an early pistol.
And the good news is there, Catch, he would have been really strong. His bones would have been really strong because he's drinking milk all the time. Oh, so it's hard to kill him.
2% either.
That's right. Whole milk, baby.
Straight from the cow.
Whole milk. Straight from the Holstein.
By the way, do you think Eli Holstein has any idea that there are two guys in Texas right now just randomly talking about him?
No.
It's the Eli Holstein show.
He's just regretting his decision to go to Pitt. That's all he's doing. Barb's $10 super chat. That works. So Arkansas AD asking 10,000 people to give $100 monthly to help their NIL game. Florida State paid $1.3 million to get beat at home. At this rate, Florida State's going to run out of money. It's good to be Texas, folks.
Barbs, you are so wrong in a way, because Texas was running out of money in NIL as recently as the last month, and they received a $5 million donation. There are roughly 3 or 4 people who are paying the bills. And I know it's like, well, it's going to be Texas. We've got guys that are writing $5 million checks. It's not going to happen forever.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just telling you, the whole thing is a bit of a house of cards. If we had a Texas One Fund person right now, they would scream at you. They would say, we need more donations. The Arkansas people are right, because I need to check. I tell you what, I will, while we play buy or sell, I'm going to see if I can get an update on the number of active monthly donations that are coming into the Texas One Fund, because the last time I heard, I don't believe it was more than 1,000. So
1,000 people
total for football.
Okay. People or donations themselves?
They're all different values.
Okay.
It's not like less than 1,000 people giving less than $100, but people who signed up for Texas One, who monthly are having, a direct deposit going to Texas One.
Gotcha. All right. We will definitely.
Well, we can do buy or sell. I'll see if I can't get an answer.
All right. You want to go first or second?
I tell you what, I'll go first. And hold on. I tell you what, you go first. I've got a surprise for you.
I'll go first, and you have a surprise. All right, fair enough. This will include, Catch, I think this is the first ever double Mount Rushmore buy or sell. Both Mount Rushmores have to be included, or it is a sell. That's coming up. But first, buy or sell number 1, Catch. If Arch, wait a minute, hold on.
Oh my God, here we go.
Wow. That is so bizarre. Hang on, hold on. Did I not put 1 second? 1 second. Let me just double check. Here. Let me just make sure.
You want me to go first?
No, I just didn't load up the first one. I think I am good. Tell me if you see this one. Buy or sell number 1. You would sit Jaden Blue this week.
I'm going to say sell. I don't know the severity of that injury. So I really kind of hate to talk about it. I will say this. If there's any question about it at all, I would. I mean, He's not needed this week. But if he's good to go, I think implementing him into the running attack helps this team. They need to be well oiled in that part of the field with Jaden Blue on the field, mixing in Gibson, finding out what Wisner's role is inside of all of that. Even though Quinn's not back, the sooner they're able to work on that, the better. But if it's a question mark at all, sit him. But if he can play, and look, they put him back in the Michigan game. I think he could have played last week, and they were letting him get healthy. So something tells me that he can play this week. But if he's still walking on it or running on it a little gingerly, then there's no reason to rush it. But I'd like to see him back.
All right, let's stay in the training room. Buy or sell number 2. If Quinn can go this week, play him. He's QB1.
Sell. Let him get healthy. They thought that last week, and it's interesting. I got a little bit more intel yesterday on the Quinn thing. It does sound like it was probably something that he thought was minor. And I don't know officially that it was ever communicated to the staff, that it could have been so minor that it was like, I'm not going to worry about bothering anybody with it. I got a little bit, I'm hurt on the side, but I'm okay. So whatever it wasn't significant enough that, he was getting hardcore treatment from the trainers over it. I don't think this is the kind of thing. This is exactly the kind of injury where thinking that you're well enough to play can be part of the problem. Quinn thought, I'll play through this. I'm okay. And then he aggravated the injury to the extent that it's a thing now. So it helps Arch out. Quinn, give him a week off to get his body healthy. There are bigger fish to fry. Sell. I'm sure he could play, Chad. How long, though? How long until we're in the middle of the game and he aggravates it, and then you've reset the meter in terms of, okay, well, now we're back to day one of trying to get him 100%. You can't do that without rest. I would say.
All right, Catch. I don't know if Longhorn fans have thought about this, but it's something that crossed my mind. Let's go to the house divided scoreboard, buy or sell. If Texas wins 10 or more and goes to Atlanta, or wins 10 or more and gets to the CFP, their 2024 will surpass A&M's 2012.
Bye. Yeah. Look,
the question came up when Texas got to number 1 because I thought to myself, well, that's obviously something A&M didn't do in 2012. But Catch, A&M is so far ahead of the other teams that entered the conference, the newer SEC teams. They have the best first season entering the SEC in terms of expansion easily. I don't know if Texas fans would care, but
A&M didn't get to the championship game.
No.
They didn't get to a playoff, which at that point was not what we're talking about now.
They were never the number 1 team.
They're a historically unimportant team. So, there's a weird world out there where even a Colorado 2005 is more historically memorable because they made it to a championship game of a conference game than even a 20. Third place is just third place.
Be interesting to see by the end of the year, too. Not only Texas's season, what does Oklahoma do in their first year in the SEC? How would you compare that to A&M in 2012? All right, Catch. Let's go to a weird birthday. Buy or sell number 4. Kermit Washington is 73 years old today. His punch on Rudy T is the most devastating non-boxing MMA punch in sports history, and it's not close.
Man, I'm going to say buy.
Kids, if you haven't seen it, Google it. It's one of the silliest things you've ever seen in your life. Ever.
The thing is, I can't think of number 2.
Right. Because if you've always said, you know what happens when they fight in basketball or baseball? Nobody ever connects with a punch. Go look up Kermit Washington and Rudy Tomjanovich. Go Rudy T. Kermit Washington. You're going to see a punch that lands. Capital L.
Like more than 20 years ago, wasn't it Michael Westbrook of Washington in the NFL that sucker punched his teammate?
Yes. Yes. At practice?
Yeah.
At practice. Yeah.
These don't happen where guys, this happened in part because Rudy was like not aware of what was about to happen.
No, Rudy was going to the fight. There was a fight going on. Rudy was on his way, and Kermit sees him coming and turns and decides, I can't let him get to the pile, to the fight.
It's got to be by a mile because I don't know. I don't know what number 2 is.
God, it's vicious. It's so vicious. Beware. Maybe not safe for work if people in your office might be prone to a little bit of throwing up in their mouth because, my God.
Hasn't there been?
It's vicious.
I'm trying to think of baseball brawls, and I feel like there have been some where we've seen some guys, but
in terms of, how about this? In terms of a clean punch landed, what Rugnet Odor did to Batista that day, that was a good clean punch landed, but it wasn't more vicious than Kermit.
Maybe hockey, there's got to be one. Because they let those guys fight.
You're right. Probably right. There might be one.
Somewhere along the line in hockey, somebody got blowed out.
You're probably right. All right, Catch. I'm going to finish off with a very strange buy or sell and a strange birthday combo. Here we go. Buy or sell number 5, Jim Cornette and Patrick Mahomes have birthdays today. Okay. Wrestling manager Mount Rushmore and pro football quarterback Mount Rushmore right now.
Oh, both of them.
Both. It's either both or it's a sell.
But buy.
Yeah?
Buy. Mahomes has to be on it. So it's Brady, Montana, and then Mahomes for me. And then we can argue about, should it be Aaron Rodgers beyond that? Should it be Marino or Elway? Whomever. Steve Young, Roger Staubach. There's a whole bunch of guys. Drew Brees.
Yeah.
But Mahomes, yes, I would already put in there.
Yeah.
And then Cornette, I'm going to say yes, although I might spend an hour later really thinking about it. But I love Jim Cornette. I love a man who walks around with a tennis racket and is unafraid to use it.
Why do I feel like I just got you to go crush some Mr. Fuji film later on?
Oh.
Does he need to be in the Mount Rushmore discussion?
I'm going to have Jim Cornette on my YouTube feed for years.
Oh, Jim Cornette falling off that scaffold. One of the craziest moments ever. All right, that's my buy or sell, Catch. What do you got for me? What's the surprise? What do you got?
Well, I low-key snuck in 5 questions into the system. So as long as you're not getting questions from last week, buy or sell number 1, Eli Holstein sounds like a character from There Would Be Blood. This is the part where you say sell because you've never seen There Will Be Blood.
Hang on.
There will.
No, I've seen this movie. That's the Javier Bardem.
No.
What am I thinking of?
That's that's No Country for Old
Men.
Men.
No Country for Old Men. Sorry. I've seen No Country for Old Men. I have not seen There Would Be Blood. So yes, I have to sell out of principle since I haven't seen the movie. There Would Be Blood is Daniel Day-Lewis?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. Yeah. Not seen that movie.
So disappointed.
Well, trust me. Don't get too disappointed because the list is long.
It's one of the great movies of the 21st century, and you confused it with a different movie. Buy or sell number 2. I'm disappointed. You enjoyed the hell out of the Eagles losing last night.
Bye. I always enjoy the hell out of the Eagles losing. They're in the Cowboys division. They're not as wacky as the Cowboys, but they're wacky. And it's really good when you know your team is wacky to be in a division that's wacky, because you can't trust any of those teams. If you have a kid that needs to be watched, if you have a babysitter that's needed, if you have money that needs to be taken care of, you do not let the Cowboys, Commanders, Giants, or Eagles watch any of it. They cannot be trusted with your NFL fandom. Tread lightly, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. Well done, Kirk Cousins. I like that.
I like that.
I
love the fact that none of the head coaches in the NFC East can do clock management or game management worth a damn.
Oh, God, no. You guys have 40, how long 40 seconds is? That's a long time. You have to add 40 to 40. And then when you get to 80, you're like, wait, is it 80 seconds or is that a minute? There's a lot to deal with. And you're right. None of them do it well. They're all maniacs in their own way.
They're all maniacs.
In their own special way, they are all deficient. All of them.
Buy or sell number 3. You've never seen an episode of Fraggle Rock.
Sell, how dare you? This is the kind of person I am. Say whatever this says about me. I've never seen There Will Be Blood, but I've seen plenty Fraggle Rock. We used to stop the world every Tuesday or Wednesday night. I made sure to get dinner taken care of because they were going into that hole by the dog, through the thing, down into the hole, and down in Fraggle Rock. Boom, down in Fraggle Rock. Go. Absolutely. Madam Trashy.
My daughter is 10, and she's discovered Fraggle Rock. And one of her favorite things in the world now is at nighttime before bed, let's cuddle and watch Fraggle Rock.
It's incredible. If you ever watch the Muppets on Sesame Street or the Muppets themselves and you thought, this isn't hippie enough for me, Fraggle Rock is for you. If you thought the Muppets were a little too conservative and didn't really let loose, Fraggle Rock is absolutely for you.
Yeah. And there's a Fraggle Rock on stage coming to the Houston area next year. We're there.
Absolutely.
Gobo on stage. Can't wait. Buy or sell number 4.
Gobo.
You don't have by the way, Sprocket, probably the least that dog. Someone find that dog a better home. Its owner. In the most recent episode, Sprocket's wearing roller skates. It's like, oh, let's not put the dog on roller skates. My daughter was really confused about why the dog's owner thought that would be a good idea. Buy or sell number 4. You don't have a favorite Jimmy Stewart movie.
This is a fun little game. I think it's a buy, Catch, because I don't believe I've ever seen a Jimmy Stewart movie. Can you name one that you think I should have seen? I've never seen one.
Yes. We've had this discussion somewhat before because That's a Wonderful Life.
I have never seen. Let me just think for a second. But
Mr. Smith goes to Washington.
Nope.
Vertigo.
Nope.
The Man Who Shot Liberty Vance.
No. Valance. Nope.
Valance. Sorry, Liberty Vance. I turned him into like a Roseanne character.
Yeah, you did. I turned him into a Roseanne character.
The Shop Around the Corner.
No. It's so sad. How sad is that I've never seen a movie with Jimmy Stewart in it?
We had this discussion where we talked about you in black and white movies. And even though you grew up in Waxahachie, and it would seem to be the perfect stage for you to have grown up on these movies. No, it didn't happen. And I was trying to think, like, my grandparents weren't that into Jimmy Stewart. Neither of my parents they're really Jimmy Stewart people. And we didn't go It's a Wonderful Life at Christmas. We weren't that family. I know there are a lot of families that do it, but because we weren't, I've never seen that movie. So yeah, Jimmy Stewart, none. And then I think the count is still, I've seen 2 movies, I think, ever that have John Wayne in them. I think it's 2. Well, that's the good thing about The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, is they're both in that.
Oh, well, there you go. I could scratch Jimmy Stewart off the list and catch another John Wayne.
Yes.
That's exciting. I should do that.
I watched The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance last night for the first time.
Oh, yeah?
I decided, you know what? I'm going to do a Jimmy Stewart top 10, but
Is
I
it
haven't
great?
seen 10 Jimmy Stewart movies. So
Was
I've
it
got to at
fantastic?
least knock out a couple per day so
Yeah.
that by the end of the week, I can properly do a Jimmy Stewart list.
And how was it? Was it great?
It was very good, actually.
Yeah. See,
Yeah,
I'm focused.
I'm not the biggest Western fan.
Okay.
So I'm not a big John Wayne guy. Like,
This week, my focus is finishing the Batman so I can be ready for the Penguin on Thursday night. That tells you what kind of cinematic focus I've got this week.
so There Will Be Blood not happening this week.
I don't think it's this week, but I would love to see that movie because I dig the title and Daniel Day-Lewis is a beast. So I'd love to see it.
It's arguably his best role.
Another guy I've never seen.
There's
another sad one. I've never seen a movie with Daniel Day-Lewis in it.
No.
That's true.
How can that be true?
Exactly. I got to find one at some point.
Gangs of New York?
Nope. No My Left Foot. No Lincoln. I know he's great. I've never seen a movie.
No, you don't know that he's great. You don't know.
I know he's great because of his reputation. Me personally, do I know he's great? No. I know that he's considered one of the greatest actors of all time by people who actually watch movies that aren't, that don't star Batman. I'm sorry.
I'll never get over that. And finally, buy or sell number 5.
Yes.
I need to ask you if you've even heard of this first before I ask you the question.
Here we go.
Have you ever heard of the expression when a guy will say that he would drink a woman's bathwater because she was so hot?
Yes.
Okay, buy or sell number 5. There is a woman on the planet that is so hot that you would drink her bathwater.
Oh, sure. If she needed me to. I mean, I wouldn't do it on my own, but if she needed me to, absolutely.
Why would she need you to?
I don't know, Catch. Look, get out of our relationship, all right? She feels a certain way, and she comes in one night after a bath. She's got a cup of the water, and she says, Chad, I need you to express your love for me. I'm like, what do you mean express? Well, I need you to live out this phrase. I need you to love me so much you would drink my bath water. And I'd say, you know what, honey? I do love you. And if it would help you, I'll drink a little bath water. Hand it over.
The thing is, my wife takes baths, and she'll sometimes leave the bath water in and not unplug the bath right away.
Right.
And then my dog, my German Shepherd, will go over and drink her bath water. And I'm always so disgusted. Like, I'm like, Heather, come on.
Now, does the dog then turn to you and think, dude,
No,
I've consumed 8 things in the last hour that are more disgusting than this. I'm washing those down with this. Are you serious?
Yes, I do get that look.
Yeah, because that's what a dog. We're talking about a dog here, right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, German Shepherd. My German Shepherd is constantly trying to go out of her way to drink bath water.
In theory, yes, in theory, I would do that. If my wife needed me to drink her bath water tonight, I would do it. If she needed it. Don't know why she would. That's weird.
Honestly, that makes me want to be sick.
If she needed it, I would do it. I would step up for you, honey.
All right. Well, there we go. That's today's.
Is that 5? I lost count. My bad. I'm sorry.
Yes,
I totally
that
lost
5.
count. All right, we do have a super chat that we are going to get to. Before we get there, it's an NIL-related super chat. But before we get there, Catch, one more bill to pay. Can you tell the folks about Andy and My Perfect Franchise, which has nothing to do with bathwater?
He'll never make you drink bathwater for counsel on the direction you want to take your life. No, look, it's real simple, man. You're sitting at home or you're at work right now and you're watching this show and you're like, this is the best part of my day because I hate my job and I hate my boss and I wish I was doing something else. And one of the cool things that Andy over at My Perfect Franchise brings to the table is the ability for you to diversify your portfolio, to build a portfolio. Maybe you don't have one. He's going to find out about you. He's going to find out your strengths, your background, your weaknesses, all the things that make you, you. And then he's going to take that and help point you in a direction that's going to allow you to find your perfect franchise. The phone number and the email address are right there on the screen. 404-973-9901. Andy at myperfectfranchise.net. Call him. texting, emailing. Take that first step towards this being a life-changing year and a life-changing month and a life-changing everything for you. You can't take the second step until you take the first step. And the best way to do that, reach out to Andy and let him help make a change, a big one for you in your life.
All righty. We did have a super chat roll in, NIL related, while we were doing buy or sell. $4.99 from Blake. Do any of these major NIL donors get anything in return? Free suite, parking space? Good question, Blake.
Well, they've now created it so that if you make it, you can make large donations, do it through the Texas One Fund, and you can build points like you would get if you were just making donations to the football program or season tickets. Think of it like that. So it is incentivized now, but historically, no. Pats on the back. You don't even know the names of the guys that are donating these millions of dollars to make all of this work. I'm sure there's access that they get. When you give $5 million, they'll let you come to practice.
Yeah, I'm amazed. I'm just amazed that this wasn't in place till, since day one, Catch. I would have assumed that at not just Texas, but anywhere else. If you have a system where it's donate and there's benefits to donating, I would have assumed those benefits would be there for all of that. But I've always looked at take my money and build a building and take my money and help pay the linebacker. I've always looked at those as the exact same thing, but the donors don't. The money people don't look at it that way. And that stigma has got to get removed, Catch, or this is not going to really get going. They've got to get that changed in people's minds. And if a point system does it, whatever.
By the way, I wasn't able to get an answer yet on how many monthly donors there are, but it can't be more than 1,500.
Okay.
I just, and so Texas is at a position where they need this same volume, the same level of interest, more rich guys, can't just be the same guys. I had somebody tell me last week, all of the major donations on NIL come from Houston. What's up, Dallas? I mean, feels like the age-old question of Houston versus Dallas is being answered, at least in the world of Texas football, because the NIL is being carried by guys from Houston, and the guys from Dallas are picking their nose, drinking bathwater, not donating money to NIL in large volumes.
Hard to believe. Hard to believe. A couple quick chats before we get out of here. How dare you to ZOV. Chad does that weird yell leader dance while arranging the helmets. No, because ZOV, if you do a lot of this and a lot of this, the helmet flies out of your hand. You can't hold helmets like that. This is not good for helmet. No, none of it. None of it works.
You end up just making a mess.
Yeah, right. Then every one of these helmets you see behind me would be on the floor. There would be no organization at all.
It's like, was there an earthquake in Elgin? It's like, no. Chad started yell leading again around the helmets, and I keep talking to him about this, but he doesn't seem to learn.
I got a helmet for you, Ags. All right, calm down. Michael did jump in with this one too, Catch. Keeping the eye on the prize. Dumb question. Are we underrating ULM because of how horrible they've been the last few years? Feels like they have a pulse this year. They smoked UAB and are currently undefeated. Catch your thoughts.
Well, before we can underrate ULM, we have to properly rate ULM.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the proper rating of ULM?
Can you name the conference they're in?
They're in the American Conference.
They're in the American Conference is Catch's guess. Hang on. Hold on. American. That is not true.
They're in the Conference USA.
Conference USA. Hang on. His next guess is Conference USA. Why can't I find Conference USA? That's what's sad. Conference USA. Nope. It's not that. I just found it.
It is the Sun Belt.
There you go. Question mark in his voice. It is the Sun Belt.
I was running out. I was like, the Mountain West. No, they're not out. They're not the Mountain West.
No, they're not out there.
Pac-12. Like I was running out of guesses.
They have beaten Jackson State 30-14, and they did whip UAB 32-6. And apparently, they have a quarterback named Booty. That's why people have been mentioning General Booty this week. I thought it was just an Oklahoma joke, Catch. General Booty, who was at Oklahoma, is the quarterback for ULM. Did you know that?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's why they've been – I thought the General Booty stuff was just like a Sooner joke, but he's the quarterback this week. Thank you, Michael, for the reminder.
I think La Monroe is a perfectly solid, like they may be the best team in the Sun Belt. I don't know that for certain because I don't know if they're better than Coastal Carolina. Now I'm looking at the Sun Belt standings, so don't think that I know all these other teams are in the Sun Belt. I did not know that Coastal Carolina was in the Sun Belt until I just said that. But, you know, are they better than James Madison or App State or Lafayette, or which just goes by Louisiana these days?
Lafayette. I know they don't approve of that name. There's no way they enjoy that.
Well, I mean, that's what they used to go by.
Lafayette.
Like there's a La Monroe. There used to be a Lafayette.
They used to hate the Lulaf. They really hated that one. Lulaf.
Is that what they hated?
I never remember anybody
call them that. I just call them Lafayette.
I really wish I'd been around you when you were calling them that, because that's a great way. I've never heard anybody say Lafayette.
Well, now you have.
It's like a musical way to do it.
So, but look, in all seriousness, though, like, okay, so they're one of the better teams in the Sun Belt. I think we've established high end of the Sun Belt.
Texas State, right?
No.
That's the high end?
No, Texas State is in the Mountain West.
No, Texas State's in the Sun Belt.
Oh, you're right. They're in the Sun Belt.
Yeah,
I guess. They're in the same division. They're as Lafayette and La Monroe.
There you go. They're one of those teams people think could be in the playoffs. I think Texas State's got to get that kind of respect. Not ULM. Texas State is thought of as maybe being able to win that conference and maybe be considered for the G5 champion. I
think we're not underrating them.
Okay.
They're a good, solid, non-power forward team that the best team in America should smoke. No offense to La Monroe.
So far this year, General Booty, 63% completions, a touchdown, no picks, and he's got a 127.8 rating. Catch, what does a 127.8 rating get me?
Pain.
Do I get like a discount at Wendy's for that? Can I get a free Frosty if I have a 127.8?
They do not give free Frosties after the game.
No?
For sub 130.
I got to go like 140 or up probably to get a Frosty.
Tyrone Swoops in 2014 through 11 games had a 127 quarterback rating.
Oh.
He then played TCU to end the season, and his quarterback rating ended up like less than 110. But 127 is Tyrone Swoops through 11 games in 2014.
Did you hear what Bryce Young's QBR was last week for the Panthers?
Did you? No, because all I heard was he got fired from his job on his day off.
6.4.
Not good. Not good, Bob.
6.4. They're going to go to Andy Dalton, the Red Rocket.
I didn't know that Andy Dalton was still in the NFL.
Me either. Andy Dalton gets the gig at least for a week, so Bryce Young can kind of calm down, step back, and see what's going on. It does matter.
Liverpool's around the corner, Chad. Got to wrap this up. Come on, let's go. The game is in 15 minutes.
Catch is getting ready for that soccer team to play. All right. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and getting your notifications. Thanks to over 800 of you in the Specs chat as we get ready to wrap up. Football with Friends at 6 o'clock. Tomorrow morning, it's the Old Fashioned at 9 and the Recruiting Hour at 10 o'clock. Jason Sukamel had a chance to talk to Raja Bell about Dia Bell, his son, who is committed to Texas. We'll get into some of that and the latest recruiting news as Texas tries to build maybe a number 1 class. They're already at a top 5 level. Can it go even higher? We'll talk about that tomorrow in the 10 o'clock hour, and then we'll be back at noon tomorrow for another show. Well, I'll be back tomorrow at noon for another show. This guy is going to go do boss things and have meetings and get away from me for a day.
And lunch at the Texas Card House Social.
Lunch at Texas Card House, get away from me. So he, cleanse the soul. Shout out to Texas Card House on the way out. 6 locations in Texas. Ketch will be at one of those tomorrow. Check out that TCH Social in Social Austin that just opened, 183 in Anderson.
And I'm definitely playing on Friday.
Right in that same area where the old location was. It is a new, beautiful location. So go check it out. Until noon tomorrow, we are House Divided.